for agreeing to come out. I know you're very busy and you made time to come out and talk to me, so I appreciate you. Yeah, and welcome to, I guess we're going to have lunch in just a minute. But I wanted to talk to you because you have been such a strong force in this industry for so long. And it's rare that we see females that are actually, first of all, it's a hard industry to stay relevant in for a period of time anyway. And then being an actual female, of course, that's something that's near and dear to my heart when I see another female doing something and being able to be so relevant and stay, kind of head above water in an industry that sometimes is totally not your fault. Things can totally change. Artists comes in as hot, people lose their jobs. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, tell people what actually you do for Atlantic Records.
Right now I am the promotions manager for the Southeast region for Atlantic Records, and a lot of people will say to me, they're like, okay, what does that mean? Basically, when you turn on the radio and you hear win the opportunity to meet T.I., go on a $5,000 shopping spree, that kind of thing, that's my job. I come up with a lot of the promotions that we do in the marketplace. So concerts, meet and greets, album listening parties, promo tours going from market to market, and Atlantic Records is really into guerrilla marketing, meaning hand-to-hand. So we're not just going to introduce our product on television or online, but we want you to feel it in lifestyle. So we call it like lifestyle marketing.
Okay.
So I do a lot of that into the street. So basically, I remember where we met was at a 7th Streeter lunch, and I did it at a place called Seven Lamps because I felt like, her name being Seven and everything, and I did like a meet and greet with a lot of press, bloggers, industry influencers like yourself, and DJs. So doing little things like that are the things that really break artists, and I've had the pleasure of working with everybody from Flow Rider. Girl, I got a story.
You talked about that. You actually talked about, which was, and one of the things that I loved about the conversation, because it was an intimate, lunch. We actually got a chance to get to know Seven. I also got a chance to hear kind of a little bit about your background with Flow Rider, and just actually being a part of developing, this artist that's turned into being internationally huge. So, but before we go back to that, I actually know that you went to Clark Atlanta.
Yes.
So let's talk. How did you get started? What is your background in that actually would lead you down this path to this, glamorous job?
Well, not always glamorous.
Right.
Well, I started at Clark Atlanta University, and I studied mass communication.
Okay.
And at Clark, they had a magnificent radio, television, film program. So that's where I got my start at. DJ Drama, DJ Sense, who are all now world-renowned DJs, they actually started with me there. And then a lot of the people that work on Real Housewives and all these other different shows are people that I actually worked with there.
Right.
So I got the foundation at Clark Atlanta, because what a lot of people see is the glamorous part. So they may see me at the BET Awards or at, maybe hanging out with somebody at a lounge or a club. But the foundation and the work ethic and just understanding the industry and getting the experience started all at Clark Atlanta University.
Right. So that's actually great. I want to go back to the actual, the internships and the relationship, but what about the actual degree? Because I know a lot of people have that position that you have, or similar positions that actually don't have a college degree. And so the industry, you kind of get this, the college degrees versus the ones that don't. Do you actually think the degree was necessary for you? Do you think that helped you in any way in addition to your relationships?
Absolutely. The degree was necessary for me. Now, I don't think college is for everyone, but let's just be real. Education is freedom.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And for me, coming from Detroit, I wasn't raised in an entertainment background.
Right.
My mother was a nurse, my father was a physician.
Right.
So I didn't have the experience and the exposure more than anything.
Right.
And at the end of the day, working for Atlantic Records, it's a lot of things. It's not all glamorous.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of proposals. For me to get, for example, I just did a listening lounge for Janelle Monáe and B.O.B.
Okay.
To get the funds for that, I had to write a one sheet, a proposal. You know what I mean? I also had to keep a budget. All of these are things that I learned. And I guess you could learn them from a book, but these are a lot of things that I learned at Clark Atlanta University.
Right.
Also, people forget that going to university is not just about the education, it's also about the connection.
Right,
So, example, DJ Sense and DJ Drama and Don Cannon and DJ Mars and Brian Barber.
Right.
I mean, it's a host of people that came out of Clark Atlanta University that we have that connection.
Right.
And guess what? It'll probably be easier for me to get them on the phone than, let's say, somebody who comes from LA that doesn't really know anyone. You know what I mean? These are people that we struggled and we came up together, so it'll always be that bond.
Right.
But then more so than that, college taught me that I had the ability to complete a task.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's not something I didn't think about until later, but then it also gave me the balance of being able to go to school, also work, then also do an internship. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that it taught me how to balance all of those things. Because in high school, some people probably didn't have this, but for me, you know, my mother would wake me up, there would be food, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. So it really allowed me time to grow up and then also get prepared for the industry. And education is timeless. And you know, another thing, a lot of companies won't allow you to take the internship if you don't.
If you're not in school.
Enrolled.
Right. If you're not in school.
And it's an insurance thing, because I know at Atlantic we have that also. But it comes down to it being an insurance thing. If something happens to you, you need to. Anyway.
Right.
That's all.
That's absolutely good. And I think that, like you said, there are people that didn't go to school there. So, and actually, I am from Toledo, really near Detroit. My mom was a nurse as well. But I didn't go to Clark, and I didn't have that connection. But sometimes you have to work with what you have. So
you definitely need somebody to take you underneath their wing and kind of show you the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why I try to give back now. I've had a host of different interns that are now working in the industry, and some of them teaching me things now that you got to give back. So, you know, you got to go look for the knowledge, and then once you get it, you also got to give it back.
Right.
You know?
I think that's a great point, because I know a lot of people that are in jobs similar to yours that actually don't have a college degree. And I get that all the time with PR, because there are a lot of publicists that.
So, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's one thing to have the knowledge, but then being able to apply the knowledge is intelligence.
Absolutely. That's
okay?
Good. That's good.
And where you get that from is experience. And how do you get experience? Is to have an internship or someone to co-sign you. So all of that comes, for me, all that came from going to school. And I remember Professor Bill Clark referred me to the $1 Million Record Pool, J.R. Dino.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? What is that? Anyway, it was a crazy job. I ended up having to open up boxes. I had to send out wax. That's when DJs used vinyl.
Right.
Old school. And I had a lot of detail in the job, and it wasn't glamorous at all, but I learned so much. I learned the infrastructure of business, you know, how to acquire business, how to maintain it, also relationships. It also introduced me to all the DJs in Atlanta. At that time, we had over 100 DJs that were part of the record pool, and I was interacting with them. Not only that, I worked with the record labels. Now, this is where it comes into play. Kenny Mahone was the Atlantic Records rep at the time in Atlanta, and I used to have to call him to find out what their priorities were. And that's how we built a relationship from there. I would give him information on what records were working with our DJs, and he would give us the new music. And he ended up being the person that referred me for this job, I think I want to say maybe 6 years later. So so it's important not to just build relationships or build bridges, is make sure you maintain them.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So you started with this job. I think a lot of times when I meet, you know, younger people, period, that want to be in the business, they want to do the exciting stuff. They want to be on the red carpet. They want to go like to BET Awards, and they don't realize that when you start, that's not where it starts, or that's not always what my day-to-day or your day-to-day looks like anyway. A lot of times it is proposals or being sitting at the computer for 5 hours, or even dealing with clients that are difficult to do. You know, that's all a part of our job. Speaking of you work with. Who was the first really big artist you worked with? And tell us a little bit about that experience.
I'd have to say right off bat, one of the biggest artists was T.I.
Okay.
You know, working. I mean, and I mean, even I remember Gerald Levert and his father. Well, after he passed, rest in peace. His father, Eddie Levert, they had a album together.
All right.
And I remember having to take Eddie Levert to radio, and he taught me so much on what an artist should do and things, some of like those old school things and techniques that I've had the pleasure of passing on to new artists.
Right.
And I've worked with Sean Paul, Missy Elliott. I was a part of Trey Songz's career right from the beginning when he had the braids. When I was like, yo, we have a young Marvin Gaye. I remember writing an email to Atlantic like, we have a young Marvin Gaye. I don't know if y'all know it. Flowrider, just like what I was telling you, I started off with Flowrider in Montgomery in the Hole in the Wall Club, where I didn't know if we were gonna make it out alive, staying at the Bates Motel, you know what I mean? And now he's an international star. Coca-Cola books him for the Final Four this year.
Right. Wow.
So it's such a pleasure to start with people when their journey, and then to see them through success.
Right.
Is nothing more meaningful. Working with 7th Street right now, which is a project that's really close to my heart because she's a writer, a dancer, a performer, a singer. She's like the full Monty. Yeah.
Right.
And I predict within 2 or 3 years she's going to be a huge star also. So I've worked with a lot of different people. I mean, Estelle, starting off with her, she's a Grammy Award winning artist. So the list goes on and on. Music Soul Child, girl, I can sit here all day and talk to you about all the different people I've worked with.
What about like, I guess, let's talk about
Toni Braxton too.
I was Toni about it. See, that those kind of artists are like amazing because they have such careers that to this day, I remember listening to Toni Braxton as a little girl, and to this day, little kids are see her, and it's like there are certain artists that just have it and it withstands the test of time.
Yes.
Talk to us about maybe your favorite experience with an artist as a part of the project, especially those projects that you were on from the conception and saw them able to to grow to this extent. What was like a fond memory that you have that that you got a lot from?
I'd have to say Trey Songz. Just starting off with him when he had the braids and he had a little success, but he didn't have the just due that he felt he deserved, and I don't think anybody at the company felt that he hadn't reached his just due. Right. Because he had laid a great foundation with his first album. His second album, which a lot of people slept on, Trey Day, was an amazing album. If you don't have it, go download that album right now. Like, it's crazy. But I remember going to radio stations, and I won't say their names now. I remember going to the radio stations, meeting with them, playing his music, and them liking it, and them telling me, no, we're not going to put him on the morning show. No, we're not going to put him on drive time radio, which if you don't know, morning and drive time radio, which is your like 5 p.m. slot, that's when you have the most amount of people, the biggest audience. Right. And obviously me being in marketing and promotion, that's what I want to go for. And they would always try to put him on the 6 to 10 spot, which is like more hip hop. Right. And I'm like, what are you talking? And I remember begging, literally, to get him on morning radio with the station, and they wouldn't let me do it. And I was really disappointed. He did the radio, we kept going. They wanted a show, we did the shows, we did everything. And then the next album, Ready, came, and his career exploded. Right. And I'll never forget the radio station calling me like, we not only do we want to do an interview, we would like to do Trey Radio. Wow. Where he takes over the whole 4-hour slot of drive time, and we can play whatever we want to. Like, literally, we could come and just post up and do whatever we wanted to. Right. So we went from, no, we really don't even want you to do the interview, to you can do whatever you want. Right. And they even took it so far where the station changed their moniker on their Yes. Oh my God. I can't say it because then you would know what the station is. Right. He had drops all on a radio station, and it was just a wonderful experience to get there. I mean, because girl, I've driven Trey from Montgomery, Alabama, all the way to West Palm Beach, and stopped at every radio station, school, or whatever. I mean, we were shaking hands and kissing babies, and I was right there with him. And it's funny to think about that. And now to see him, this year he was the Grammys did a special presentation for him.
Wow.
Now, I mean, not to be given his rate, but I mean, he's an international touring artist.
Right.
His performance fees are well into the six-figure digits. You know what I mean? So all of these things are big successes. So I hold that very close to my heart. You know what I mean?
That's definitely that's a great story. That's a great story.
Yeah, for real.
How much of that do you think was due to his? Because as a publicist, I'm always interested in the imaging and the things behind the talent. The talent is a big part of it, but there's also the outer package that is sometimes, in my opinion, equally important.
Yeah.
So how much of that do you think was his? Because he was obviously talented from the beginning. Now he cut the braids. He got a little edge up, and then he got a few muscles grow up a little bit. The ladies start feeling him a little differently. So how much of that do you think was due to the outer package, the change, and finding a different image that kind of resonated more with female fans, or do you think it was just his time? Because everyone's time comes around.
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Plus, I think him cutting the braids opened up his demographic.
Right.
And then I think his imaging, because even with Trey Day, he was wearing suits, but people weren't really paying attention. I think because the braids kind of gave them a certain
more the
image.
hip-hop, right.
You know what I mean? And then I think he got older, and then I think that his music it was his time.
Right.
But then no one can say that he was lazy.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
When I tell you every single weekend he was doing a show for somebody somewhere, I mean, I remember one year we went to Augusta twice in the summer. So it had more to do with his work ethic. He was on time. He was polite. He loves his fans. He still loves his fans. I mean, all of those things that he did, those were all the recipe for his success.
Right.
And a lot of these new artists don't think it. They get one hit and then they start wearing sunglasses. They don't want to do meet and greets. They don't want to do radio. They don't want to do local publications.
Yes.
They don't want to go. And then Trey was open to new experiences. Also, when he was booked for the Blueprint 3 tour, we tried something new at Atlantic, which was my idea to do a tweet and greet. And what we did was we basically partnered with a radio station. This was the first time this had been done in the market. And we were like, the radio station was promoting Trey Songz is going to be in town. And we're going to let you know on Friday by Twitter. You got to follow our Twitter account. And we're going to let you know on Friday where he's going to be. And the station, and it was all, I mean, we all had it orchestrated. The station tweeted out that we're going to be at the Best Buy signing CDs. Trey tweeted it out. And literally, we spent no money on the promotion. When we got there, it was over 300 people in line.
Right.
Literally, Best Buy sold out of all Trey Songz he had Ready, Trey Day, and so in his first album, they had sold out of all of his product.
Wow.
And it was awesome, because so it got a chance for him to meet people. It was new, it was interactive, and I mean, this was several years ago.
Right.
I mean, right now that wouldn't be such a big deal, but staying on the cusp of doing something new and fresh.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And that's the goal, is to always sell albums. So obviously, obviously Atlantic was very excited and happy to keep you around. Let me ask you one more thing as we get ready to kind of wrap up, because there are a lot of, especially young women, that see a job like that, and there aren't very many of us in those positions, especially African American women. What advice would you give to a young Cannon as she's getting ready to graduate, or looking to start, an internship in the fall? What advice would you give to her? And then even beyond career, what advice can you give to that same girl just to kind of balance and be able to stay in a good place and stay professional the way that you have been able to over the last few years?
That's a great question. My advice is that when you're starting off your career, do the hard work. Do the smart work, but also do the hard work. I used to be a production assistant on videos, and that required a lot of sweat, moving sets, doing all the things nobody else wanted to do. And I remember admiring the video models that were in the videos, where they would be sitting back, having fun with the artist or doing whatever. And I'm like, I'm over here, but the thing about it is that when you pay your dues and you do the work, you earn your respect. And once you earn your respect, it can't be taken from you. So I would resist, especially if you're a young girl, I would resist from hanging out. If you're trying to get in the music industry, hanging out at the clubs with Future or whoever is in the clubs. Hey, I mean, that's one thing, but no one's gonna say I want to hire her for business.